Man, that's, I'm struggling with that piece.
Can I ask you maybe another part of that?
Sure.
How do we get everyone to be vested
Right.
in eradicating racism, poverty?
Right.
et
That's an
cetera?
easier answer. I'm going
Okay.
to take the tough one and talk about the cultural piece because I think a lot of us find it easier to reduce racism to its economic context. I mean, because there are deep-rooted economic contexts within which racism has gestated over the centuries in the United States. Slavery being one of them, debt peonage, convict leasing, the things that Michelle Alexander traces throughout her whole book, those systematic things that create certain economic spaces. For a long time, wealthy one-percenters have been controlling how poorer folk interact with each other, and racism and sexism and religious bigotry and bigotry around sexual identity are the best ways to fragment poorer folks and keep them more vulnerable to certain kinds of oppressive economic systems. And so a lot of us who are engaged in the work feel comfortable with the arguments about racism residing in the economic context. But I think Pearl S. Buck is onto something here, that there is a there even without those economic contexts. And you don't want to think of racism or sexism as being inherent, although there are some folk who do believe that. But what I think is that you can't really ultimately separate those economic conditions from some of the cultural ones. You know, in the sort of the steady stream of stories that we've seen around unarmed civilians being murdered by police without any penalty, a lot of folks have talked about the fact that, wow, white people love black culture, but they don't love black people, right? And that's a great thing to tweet out, right? 140 characters, but I don't know if I agree with that, because I think to actually love black culture, you have to acknowledge and engage the humanity of black people. I'm a hip hop scholar. I teach about hip hop culture, and hip hop is not always the most popular thing to teach about in the academy because it's misogynistic, it's materialistic, it can also be violent. But that's just what people see at the tip of the iceberg, only what people see in mainstream media. If that's folks' experience with black culture, then you're not really seeing black culture, right? Beneath the surface of what's sort of promoted to you through like mainstream media outlets, cultures have a much broader, deeper substance. So I think if we really want to get at this issue culturally, we have to actually get into culture, not what popular culture says the black experience is, or there's some people who think they watch an episode of Empire and they understand exactly what's going on in black life, right? Seriously, or Fresh Off the Boat and they understand exactly what's going on in Asian American life. So we have to resist the flattened out, sort of oversimplified, materialistic products of culture and actually engage culture. I think if we actually do cultural immersion, I think if we actually do cultural competence, we will go a long ways towards addressing the root causes of where racism is able to sort of grow really well in those economic contexts, because it has to do with fear, it has to do with ignorance, and actual cultural immersion and cultural competence are the tools that we have to address that. But sadly, that's not the work that enough people are engaged in. And so that's kind of a long way of saying culture is important. Cultural fear, or the fear of culture, is really, really important. But the activists, we're more comfortable talking about these issues in the economic context.
Thank you.
I don't know if I answered the second question. That was the hard one. I don't know if I answered the other one.
We'll come back.
Yeah.
But Pearl S. Buck does do that work, so we're on the right path here.